So what's the thought process in this?
Here we're just working on warming up the coils, priming and engaging all of the lateral slings. So rotation is a two-sided crank, right? So there's no system in the body that's working alone. If you're pushing, you should be pulling at the same time. Any skilled athlete who throws a ball, swings a club, does anything rotational whatsoever knows that really well, but the problem is it's a more subtle sensation when you're running straight line, when you're turning, cutting. All those things are still happening. You just don't realize it as much because it's not as apparent.
It's a great warm-up.
And it's just a good warm-up. It feels good, right?
Yeah.
Get that stretch on one side.
I'm doing this movement all day long, whether it's up or down. You
Exactly.
know, that push-pull movement. It's a good point. We're all pushing and pulling. Even if we're not moving weight.
That's it.
Yeah.
So here we got compression. This is all about creating maximal contraction throughout the entire system. Get the whole body firing, every muscle firing together. We're not just squeezing in, right? We're squeezing back at the same time. Same concept in a much more static fashion. Try to pop that ball with your feet. Pop that ball with your feet. There you go. There's that sissy squat, more quad driven movement there. Knee dominant as opposed to hip dominant.
These things jump on you too.
Keeping that serratus engaged as you press the ball out. Just one of those awkward movements that you don't realize you do on a daily basis, but it's there.
Oh man.
It's just a great way of priming the system, right? Sure. Use that compressive air in both of those balls. Fire up the upper body, fire up the lower body. Good stuff.
Yes, sir. This?
Yes, sir. Drive that right arm away. Extend through the stick.
Really?
Now squeeze that left glute. Feel that whole hip flexor, lat, oblique. All those hip attachments between the rib cage and the hip. Feel it all lengthen out. Yeah, and then work that stick backward. You get more of that infraspinatus. Yeah, you get more of the subscapularis to open up, the pec minor to open up.
Here?
Yep. And then wind it backward behind your head. There it is. You see?
Ooh. Wow.
Really open up the shoulders.
Yeah.
Breathe through it. Try to get as much nasal breathing as you can.
It's challenging.
Yeah. Active mobility, flexibility, and strength. Much more loaded.
Yeah.
Right? It's not heavy. Doesn't need to be heavy. When you want to be athletic, you have to find what that maximal weight is that you can work with, but still work with maximal velocity as well. Right? That's what being an athlete is all about.
A life athlete. Yeah.
That's it, man. Life is a sport. And adjustments don't lie.
Yeah. Life don't lie.
That's it. It's gonna show up in your adjustments, and your movements are gonna create that sum total of what your body biomechanically looks like. So if you're not training in a way that's reflective of the skills you execute on a daily basis as a life athlete, then you're gonna suffer the consequences. That's it. Similar loading pattern, right?
Yup.
Head over foot. Head over foot. It's textbook. Call him Mr. Prototype. Right? Loading, unloading, winding, unwinding. Always loading the bows. There we go. There you go.
God.
So how metabolic does that feel?
Very metabolic. Woo!
So as far as a warm-up series goes, you covered pretty much all of your bases. You had some static contractions, you had vertical force vectors, horizontal force vectors, covered all of your bases. far as every contractile pattern that you needed to cover, and you got every muscle in the system fired up together, as opposed to separating all those little bits and pieces all the time. It's much more efficient.
For sure. That was
Much more efficient. The abridged version of a warm-up, but a warm-up no less.
Woo! You get in.
Good stuff.
What you put in. Contract.
Keep that tension. There you go.
What I like about these is not just the load and contraction, but this type of tension. I'm in it all day long.
That's it.
So to be able to move through this and train like this, for me in my sport, is money. I'm rarely in compression like this, you know?
Right.
I'm always here, then moving.
Now, from a spinal perspective, how important is that?
Oh, it's huge. Huge. Being able to get your spine to load functionally and correctly, you know?
Yeah.
And then turn and keep going with it is so important, you know?
Especially for the average person who doesn't move as much as you on a daily basis,
Yeah,
right?
and that's just me moving. All the people standing all day long.
You kind of
And even when
naturally
it's hard,
build strength by moving other people around, but most people aren't.
And being able to handle that load as you go through different planes.
Yeah.
You know, so big for the spine. It's very stimulating for the spine
Right.
when it's done correctly and progressively, you know?
Right.
Versus just trying to get the spine to collapse
And it's
under
that
a movement.
relationship of what the muscle and the tendon and the ligament does to support the spine.
For sure.
You got to stimulate the muscle.
100%.
What's the point of a central nervous system if you're not
And
using
they're all
what it's
giving
connected
feedback
to?
to each other, you know?
Right.
So the healthier your spine, your joint, your discs are, the healthier they can move through that movement, the better input they get the soft tissue anyway. So then the soft tissue in turn fires it. CNS just lights up like a Christmas tree.
Everybody working together is a big happy family.
Absolutely, man. I'll
Gotta
sync
have
up
it.
on that Wi-Fi.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
CNS Wi-Fi.
The great mind-body connection, the holy grail. This is what I love right here. Those bands are all wound up.
Wow.
Nasty.
Nasty. Oh my God.
There it is. Going through that full progression.
Building that muscle.
Yeah.
That breathing
Isometric contractions, right? Concentric, eccentric, reciprocal inhibition.
muscle. Everything's firing.
Getting everything firing.
And
through-
pumped.
Yeah, through different tempos as well,
For sure.
right? Different velocities. You gotta play with velocity. Sometimes the body's gonna have to move with some speed. If you haven't trained it to move with speed, it's not gonna be very happy with you when it has to.
Yeah. You know, that's a good point.
Yeah?
Because I can relate to that. Even in my sport, is there's times where it's a slower movement
Yeah.
and a controlled tempo, and there's times where I need that explosive
extra
input real
speed, yeah,
quick.
yeah.
It's true.
Some bones that haven't moved for a while require
For sure.
a little bit more speed.
For sure. Angles.
Yeah.
You know, leverage, body position, all of that, and then boom, plays such a big role.
Yeah. And it's a real art knowing necessary force versus excessive force or
finesse. Yeah.
Right.
Finessed force versus just like horsepower.
Right.
That's reckless.
Right. Just shoving weight into people,
And that can translate into sports too.
Absolutely.
Just sloppy power versus controlled. Mm-hmm. Someone's going the distance, someone's not.
Right.
Someone's getting injured, someone's not.
Someone
can do it every day, week in and week out. Someone can't.
Someone who has that skill to manage leverage, right? To manipulate leverage,
for sure,
can drastically outperform someone twice their size, twice their speed, twice their athleticism.
Especially in the long game.
And sheer talent, and be able to go the distance on a career as well.
For sure.
And that's really the goal, is you want to be able to do what you love for a long period of time. You're not going to do it very well if you're hurt every 2 seconds because you use way more energy than you really need to execute the skills.
Yeah. And the funny thing also is like that you might have natural talent or be able to naturally do it once, but it needs to be trained.
Yeah.
It's a muscle on its own, its own unique little category of that trained position. You know what I mean? To build that up.
Understanding what exactly you need.
It's easy to just rest on talent or rest on your body's ability to say, hey, I did this before, I could do this.
Well, it's also training that enough with enough intent that you don't become fatigued and start to get sloppy. So there's the conditioning aspect of it as well. Again, can you go the distance, right? Have you done that enough in a taxed state, right? End of a week where you're totally whipped. That 101st adjustment of the last day of the week where you've now done 1,001 adjustments. Is that the one that's going to jack you up or jack that person up?
100%. That is 100% it right there. It's that last rep you take, the end of the week, when exhausted, can you still perform healthy?
And you're shutting your brain off, dropping your brain in the bucket, and you're not moving with intent anymore. That's when you'll end up getting hurt.